We get a lot of RFPs, requests for proposals, and a lot of times these are very vague, and sometimes they're very, very specific. And last year we got a very specific one. A person wanted an animated photo booth. So they wanted the attendees to go into a photo booth, it would produce an animated GIF, and then they would project an entire wall of these animated GIFs on a wall larger than this. So at Beak, we have a very scientific process that we go through in order to determine if an idea is good or not. It's a proprietary process. It's taken us years to develop. I'm going to let you in on it right now. So step 1, close your eyes. Step 2, and this is the secret, imagine yourself using the installation. And step 3, ask yourself, was this fun or did it make me nauseous? I'm being a little facetious, but it's true that if you put yourself in place of the event, it's easy to see what will work and what won't. Now, as you can imagine, a wall of animated GIFs gets old pretty quickly, and you want to move on. It makes the event really unenjoyable to have that behind you all day. So why didn't this work? It had a lot of pros. It had a lot of things going for it. It understood the audience. This is an audience of mostly millennials. So it's a technology that people are used to using all the time, animated GIFs. It's highly shareable. So it was catering to the audience. It wasn't a difficult technology to understand. But at the end of the day, it ignored usability. It ignored the fact that it wasn't actually a fun experience. So as creative director for Frog Design and co-founder of Beak Labs, I go to a lot of events. And I see a lot of new technology at these events. And most importantly, for today's discussion, I see a lot of mistakes at these events. So we're going to cover the top mistakes that events are making with new technology. So mistake number 1, no surprise, ignoring usability. Technology has an amazing ability to shape our lives. And I think everybody here in this room is probably on the front of that, on the front of embracing it, of using new technology, which is amazing, but we can't let that allow us to ignore fundamentally an installation has to be usable. It has to be fun for everybody involved. So let's look at a specific example. So this was an interactive table that we saw at South by Southwest this year, and there's a person standing there with a coffee cup for scale at the corner of it. And you can see very quickly that it's very beautiful. They didn't hold back on the budget. They encased it in this beautiful wood. They put it on a steel base. It was a very large. They didn't hold back on the budget at all. But that person that's standing there, the table is actually so large that they can't reach all the way across it to use everything. So that in and of itself is not necessarily a problem, except that this whole app is oriented to one direction. So you can only use it if you're standing on this side of the table, which that person is not. So even though they have seats that are going all the way around and you can stand all the way around the table, only 1 or 2 people can use it from one side. And additionally, what this picture doesn't capture, it was a very loud event. And the app that was on the table was a multimedia event with audio. So without headphones or really high quality speakers, there was no way to fully experience the app that you were participating in. So any one of these things could have kept this from being a success. And all of them were easily avoidable if you just close your eyes and imagine experiencing that in the environment that you're in and determine, was this actually usable? So mistake number 2, not cater your experience to your audience. Now, it sounds a little cliche or even a truism. Obviously, we're taught Marketing 101, cater your experience to the audience. But it's too easy to let new technology distract us from that. So for the sake of adopting something new or something exciting, we just use that as a different medium instead of actually taking advantage of what that technology can do for us. So where are we seeing this most often? Projection mapping is a big one. I love projection mapping, and if you've ever seen it done well, it can be a really incredible experience. So for anybody that doesn't know, projection mapping is when you use usually a high-powered projector and you project onto a 3-dimensional surface. And when it's done really well, you make that surface come alive, and you can use it to tell a story in a way that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to do. At its worst, as we see here, it becomes a glorified billboard. So it's just another flat surface that we're projecting the advertisement onto. So that's not a good use of this new technology. My favorite is the Oculus Rift. So I think If you can see it, that guy's expression pretty much captures it all. Anybody who's put on an Oculus Rift, it is, again, an amazing technology, and it's really powerful for immersing you in a new world and an entirely different experience. If you are a car company and you put a person in the driver's seat and they put on the Oculus Rift and you allow them to experience your car in a totally different scenario in a safe way, you've really hit the mark. If you put a person in a new 3D environment and they're running around in the forest and you've put advertisements inside of that experience, you've missed the mark. You've missed what that technology can do for you. Which brings us right to it does not. Let's look at an example first of where it's actually successful. So this was Bose sound booth at the Spotify house at South by Southwest. Full disclaimer, Bose is a client of ours. This is not our installation. So this was a small room. The walls were completely covered in mirrors. They had disco ball going. They had amazing Bose sound pumping into the room. And the Spotify app was running, and you could play anything from the Spotify library and have your own little dance party. This was hugely successful. Every time I saw it, there was a line out the door because they had focused on what the audience was actually there for. They were there for the music. They were there to have a party, to have a good time. And they really gave them a different way to do that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to have. Now, it's not bleeding edge technology. There's nothing brand new here, nothing that we haven't seen before, but they put it together in a way that really focused on the experience that the audience wanted to have, and they catered for that. Mistake number 3 is emphasizing brand over participant. Now, imagine if that sound booth that we just looked at was the exact same, except that half of the mirrors have been replaced with a logo, and then every 5 minutes, the audio was interrupted to say, "This experience brought to you by Bose." It would have been a total failure, because the reason that people were having fun was that they were ignoring that they were being advertised to. They were so focused on the experience that they weren't paying attention to the fact that they were interacting with these brands. Everybody knew that they were at the Spotify house. They knew that it was Bose that was hosting the sound booth, but they were more focused on having the experience and walked away with a better brand association because of it. So places where people really get it wrong is photo booths. Now, I've been kind and censored out who this was, but you could probably figure it out. So let's assume that we got past the large advertisement for the photo booth, and we got into the uninspiring photo booth and we took our photo. The printout is basically an advertisement. Half of it's an advertisement. No one is going to share this out. If you're lucky, at best, they're going to save it and they're going to cut off the advertisement and just keep the photo part of it. But that doesn't mean to say that all photo booths are bad. You can have the same experience without over-branding it. So again, at Spotify House this year, this one featuring yours truly, you can see that they just used the brand colors to change the hue for the photo, so you could change it to any of their brand colors. It was minimal branding in the corner, but it became a fun experience, something that you actually wanted to share out, and it wasn't over-branded. So you don't feel like, if I send this out to my followers, I'm just supporting a brand. It became more about sharing the experience itself. Photo booths brings me to mistake number 4. Now, I have wanted to give you very specific examples up until this point to really let you see the mistakes that are being made. But mistake number 4 is so ubiquitous, I'll really just turn it into a plea. Please don't require users to log in order to have the experience, in order to continue the experience. So if you are doing a photo booth and the only way that you can get the photo is to give your username and password or to allow Twitter to authorize the app to have access, no one's going to do it. Find a different way to send that information to that person, capture their contact information, just give it to them, make them want to share it. Don't require them to give up any privacy. Don't hold the experience hostage. Just give it to them. All right, mistake number 5, I've saved for last because it is potentially the most contentious. Overemphasizing on ROI. So if you've been to events like this before, especially over the last few years, the ROI conversation is happening on stage and off stage, and everybody is trying to figure out how do we justify these large budgets for tech installations or art installations or both at events. And ROI has become the kind of quick answer. So you hear that all the time. Well, if we spend $50,000, $150,000, $500,000, are we going to get a return on our investment? And that's unfortunately a kind of short-sighted way to view it. And the way that the need was met was to say, well, every capture, every touch, every share is worth X amount of dollars. And it created a fake value for all of these metrics. The problem with that is that we're not looking at a long enough period of time to actually equate a true monetary value to those things. So if you're going to use ROI, it's okay, but you have to use it over a longer period of time. You have to tie it to an actual dollar. If we have X number of participants and we make Y captures, we'll make Z sales or whatever that is for your brand. If you look at it in the short term, then you end up making quick decisions that don't benefit you in the long run. Instead, you should be asking yourself, is the installation usable? Do people care? Is it a meaningful experience for our audience? Does it extend our brand? And does it respect their privacy? Thank you.